let's get started. Welcome everyone on this rainy day. What a great day to be inside the classroom here in House 31. If you haven't already, just before the end of class today, sign your name and circle your name on the attendance sheet. That's going to be quicker than doing it on the phone. And then also, everyone by now should have picked up a syllabus and a handout. We're going to get to those things later because right now we have a cast here of not thousands, but quite a few people. All the folks who are going to help you, guide you through this journey. And this, I think, shows to you today the level of commitment that we have as an institution to this program. President DeFranco and many others have said, we need this program, we have to kick it off, we have to start now. So you guys are literally the first class ever at LTCC for the Promise Success class. So it's kind of exciting. Without any further ado, what I want to do is just introduce everyone and have them talk a little bit about their commitment to the program and what they do on campus. And if you see any of these folks after today, I mean, some you will see certainly are Promise Director Julie and Lead Counselor Christi, but others you might see on campus. So if you do, you kind of make that connection and you can track them down and they will be happy to help you out. So President DeFranco, do you want to go first?
So, welcome everyone. My name is Jeff DeFranco. I'm president here at LTCC. Thrilled to have all you here today. If you see me around campus, definitely say hello, remind me of your name, be interested to connect. I'll just say, very simply, this class was put together because there's a number of things that students need to know about going to college. Whether it's how do I fill out my financial aid, how do I get the right classes, how do I schedule the classes I need, how do I access books? How do I access the online library? So these were all things that kind of like college 101, if you will, that students were just kind of left on their own to figure out. And so our idea with this first year seminar course that you're in, this college success course, this is something that's been modeled at other institutions. And what it shows is that the students who are in this class not only do better, but they're able to access more resources and typically graduate in on time. And so that's really the intent. This is, all your classes you're taking this term are obviously all important. It's your first term. You want to start on the right foot. But this is really the class where you kind of learn how to navigate LTCC and eventually how to navigate college and higher education in general. And the thing that I always tell folks is, if you get an associate's degree, you're going to double your earnings in 3 years. If you get a bachelor's degree, you're going to double your earnings in 5 years, right? The more education you get, the more you'll be able to earn, which could help you, your family, kind of help you meet whatever your goals are. So it's definitely a worthy investment of your time. And again, focusing on just kind of this college 101, if you will help put you off on the right foot. So thanks to all of you for being willing to go first. There's actually three sections of this happening this term, so you're not the only section, but this is the first time we offered it, and I would be really interested to hear, as will, I'm sure, Dr. Scott Lukas, from all of you at the end of the term on what you liked, what you would maybe like to have a little bit more of. But again, this class is a resource to get you started. So welcome and congratulations on taking your first step.
Good reminder, I need to create an exit survey, so thanks for that. Excellent idea. Let's have our vice presidents and dean introduce themselves. Where do you want to? Okay.
No,
we could go that way.
I'm amazing. So, hi, I'm Michelle Risdon. I'm the vice president of instruction here at the college. I've been at the college for a long time, though. I taught English here for many, many years. And now I'm working in the administration, but we're just so happy to have you here and really glad that you're part of this program. As you can see, we're really putting a lot of support and effort behind this from our side too, so we are here as resources for you. I know sometimes you look at those offices and it says administration above it and you think, I'm not going in there. That sounds a little too scary. So just know that the door is really open for you. That's what we are here doing, is working on behalf of you so that you can be successful and you can get your questions answered. So with the deans, and one of them will introduce himself in just a minute. My office really it's the one that when you walk in the campus, if you just kept walking straight, you would walk right into it. So that's where my office is and the deans are. We support all of the instructional programs on campus. So we are there to answer questions about your classes, about any issues that you might have with an instructor or with trying to navigate on the academic side. we are really busy there. We're also the ones who are trying to kind of figure out, with the help of the counseling staff, what are the best courses to kind of designate as promise. So when we registered this time, we had identified a few courses that we thought, this is going to make sense to maybe guide students to these courses initially, get some of those general education foundational courses out of the way. So we'll be kind of looking for your input and looking at your plans, your educational plans, to figure out what are the best ways to kind of keep you as much as a cohort as possible, and then also help you kind of start to forge your own paths for your individual degrees as well. So we are also kind of overseeing the different meta-major areas and the degrees and certificates. So if you have any questions about courses, faculty, scheduling, any of that stuff, please feel free to come to our office and ask any questions. And we have a friendly face. Kelsey is right at the front desk, and Natalie. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Nice to meet you all. I look forward to meeting you all.
Thanks, Dr. Risdon.
I'm Christi. I'm going to be your counselor. I'm not going to say much because I think I have my whole own slide.
You have your own slide.
I have my own slide. We're making her for a while. So, I don't want to.
Yeah.
You can share my slide. Okay. We have
Yeah.
some stuff to take care of together.
Awesome. Well, I'm Julie. We get confused a lot, so it's not going to be surprising if you come up to me and say, I know I just met with you about my classes, ready to change things around. We've even joked about being each other for Halloween. Same with Sarah Marquez. People always think we're the same person. So if you see a blonde lady running around campus, just grab them and ask them for help, because odds are very good it's going to be a counselor myself. I've seen almost all of you at some point, and I'm going to get you guys confused, but by the end of the quarter, I should know who you are. And if there's anything you need, just reach out and let me know sooner than later. And we've had this conversation with some of you guys, but as soon as you're even like holding onto that oh crap handle in the car, you're afraid someone's not going to stop, we're your oh crap handles. So I want you to reach out and just let us know, hey, I'm worried about my class, or I don't know, this seems harder than I thought, or what do you think about this book, or not vibing with the teacher. Anything it is, just let us know, because we want you guys to succeed. We want to help you out. So even if you wanted to swing by and tell me something awesome about your day, I love that too, and to see how you guys are doing. So please, I see all of your faces. Come say hi to me. I really enjoy it. So.
And if you did your contract, so some of you did it already, and if you already did this, we want to take these today. So
yeah, we'll scoop them up, and then that's pretty much the last thing for most of you guys in the class.
And also make sure you do your attendance.
Yeah.
And we can take some check-in time after introductions too to do some of that. And just to mention, Julie, you may know her as her former director of student life, kind of transitioning from that position now as our promise director. So probably a familiar face on campus, I would assume, for most people know you. So great, and you're going to see them a lot in this class. Christi will be doing check-ins. Julie will be doing a presentation on student life, kind of related to her old role, but that'll be coming up later in the quarter too. So welcome to both of you. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is John. I'm the VP of Student Services, and I've been here about a year now. Still getting used to it. If you look outside right now, you see how rainy it is. I was from San Diego, so it was like sunshine year round. So it's really like, wow, it's raining already, but we had a wonderful summer. I know some of you out there, I know Rosie, she's in our housing unit. For some of you guys who don't have housing yet, definitely come and see me. I want to look at us as being kind of like a dream team. Everybody you're seeing up here, everybody needs a dream team to succeed, right? When I was in college many, many years ago, the first thing they said when we were meeting all of the big people like this, they said, look to your left and look to your right. Look to your left and look to your right. And they said, by next quarter semester, one of those persons won't be here. Ha, ha, ha. It wasn't funny and it was scary. You will never get that reaction from us. We are here to really help you get through this process. And we really want you to just take each day at a time. And when you're struggling, you're gonna struggle somewhere in this semester quarter. Definitely reach out to one of us, because we're here to help you succeed. And as the prayer said, the more you put behind you in terms of your credits and getting out of here, the more you're going to make with your salary. So my job and my particular mission right now is to make sure that every single person in this room gets to the first quarter gets you the first year, and next year you graduate. Seeing you come across that stage is going to be monumental. So my office is downstairs. I have a big candy jar. So if you have a candy fit, definitely come to my office. It's not stocked yet, but I would say by next week it'll be really well stocked.
You gotta stock it.
You
gotta stock it.
That's a good reason to come by. I'm the candy man, but I'm also on your green team.
Thank you, Dr. King. Appreciate your
Can I
insight.
just add one thing to that? Because I would say the opposite, Jonathan raised a good point, the opposite of what we want to have here is look to your left, who's sitting next to you? Look to your right, who's sitting next to you? Look up front. Everyone you just saw, those are the people who are going to help you get through this college. Not just up here. We all need applause, right? We all need some help. So that's what we're trying to do. Get you all together. Help each other. We're going to help each other.
All right, great. Excellent advice. Okay, our last introduction, Brad Deeds.
Hi, everybody. Needs of the Dean of Workforce Development and Instruction. I just want to say this is such an incredible opportunity in front of you. To have the president, most of the administration, and the whole college pulling for you is very rare. I wish I had this. I wish I had a college success class when I was a freshman in college. I didn't know where to go, who to go ask when I didn't know, and to get 2 units for it is a gift. So this is incredible. As you know, we're making a promise to you. We're going to support you and give you whatever you need. And you're making a promise back to us, which is you're going to show up and do the work. And in 2 years, we're all going to shake hands, high five, and hug on that stage as you move on. And as the Dean of Workforce Development and Instruction, I'm over all the career technical education. So you might be in criminal justice or business or culinary or hospitality or a variety of allied health. Those are the classes that I oversee and the programs that I oversee. So if you're in those majors, please come to me and talk to me because I want to make sure that I'm here to support you. Because not only is just giving me a high five and a hug on the way out with your diploma, it's my job to help ensure you guys get jobs and careers. And we'll always be here for you. We've got career services right here on the second floor. Talk to the folks in advance, and you have a career counselor as well, Beth. So we're here for you all the way. Welcome. Good luck.
All right, well, thank you to our 4 distinguished guests for coming. Appreciate your support. And we will have some fun, yeah. Okay, so next, do we have our navigators here today or no? They're not
They're
here?
in class.
They're in class,
They're
okay.
here. They go here. And
Okay.
Rocky's in Hawaii. He won't
Okay.
take any of them.
Nice, okay. So just to explain that a little bit, as you move through this journey, so as they emphasized, campus administration, staff, faculty, we're all here to help you. In addition, this program has a very unique approach in having peer navigators. We've assigned one peer navigator to each of the meta majors. You see there's still for health and public safety to be announced. Did any of you go to the Coyote kickoff last week? Anyone? I think I saw. That was awesome. Thank you to Julie for putting it on. I mean, you spent so much time getting that going, and it was awesome. Get some rest. I just thought there was great turnout. There were a lot of fun demos by the faculty. And the main thing was that we started to really demo these 5 meta majors. So they're all color coordinated. We had a team working on these graphics. They're not like stock graphics. We actually sat down and spent, I'm not going to tell you how many hours creating these, but many hours in meetings because we really wanted to capture something unique, something that could speak to that Tahoe spirit of who we are and not like clip party. So there's a meta major, 5 of these, and then each of these has a color and then a graphic. And so what we hope to do over this year and the next year is, in addition to Coyote Kickoff, launch a series of events. They could be career events. In fact, I believe in my meta major, which is anthropology and sociology, we're talking about doing a collaborative play on campus focused on immigration and multiculturalism called Rowing to America. So we're going to see if we can get that rolling for this year. So what you might anticipate is as you start to figure out your individual journey, if you're like dead set on science and you know you're going to do science and you're in the green, the science, technology, and environment one, then you can start to really seek out those events that you hear about that focus on STEM-related issues. So if you're interested in health and public safety, the same thing. So what really we hope to do with this is better guide you through your journey here at LTCC so it doesn't feel so overwhelming when you get your schedule or catalog and you say what classes should I take and so forth. So we're just rolling this out with the Coyote Kickoff that Julie spent so much time organizing. I really see as that event every year that will give all of you and then the future classes here in Promise a sense of what's to come and a sense of maybe navigating that journey towards a career, a degree, retraining, whatever it is that you're seeking here at LTCC. Do you want to say anything, either of you, any more about the peer navigation system and how it's going to work? Or?
Yeah, so these peer navigators are going to be assigned to you, basically. We're going to bring them. We're going to bring them. We're going to introduce them. Somehow we're going to get them introduced to you. This program is all new, so we're like kind of rolling with it. What's going to happen though is you're going to have required check-ins. You're going to have required check-ins with me. You're going to have required check-ins with Christi in there. You're going to have required check-ins with your peer navigators. I would say, what I expect is that these guys, they're your age, they've been through this, that they're probably your first step, like your first, if you're like confused or you're not sure where to go, they're going to have their phone numbers, right? And you're going to be able to text them, I've got a question, how do I get to the library, whatever it is, and that would be your first step. So we'll let Allie talk in a minute. We're just finishing up with this, and I don't know if you want to jump in, but we really want them to be somebody that you feel comfortable talking to, that you go to them with your questions and answers, and you will be required to sort of like check in with them multiple times throughout the month.
And the cool thing about them is then I have 5 helpers, so I'm not pestering you all the time. And then you see a
You're not cool.
email. I'm not, I don't think I'm cool. In my own mind, at least.
But now they'll know what differentiates us. You're cool and I'm not.
That way, when you keep seeing my emails, you don't blaze by them. If you see it's a peer navigator, they're probably trying to remind you of your, progress report, check-in, just keeping you on task also and kind of checking in, so it's an extra person to help us take care of you. Hopefully by the end of next Friday, which is what we call census, is the last day for anyone to drop for no record. So by next Friday, you'll know who your peer navigator is, and you guys will be getting a variety of emails from me this week, kind of checking in with you on maybe some little housekeeping things that we need to gather. But these are just helpers, and they know your major. And so for those of you who are undecided, welcome to my world. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. It's okay to be undecided. It's actually a really cool thing, I think, so you get to explore and dabble in a little bit of everything. But if you're really focused and you know exactly what you want, that student your peer is going to be able to tell you, hey, these are the classes, don't forget this one. The night class was cool, but the day lab seemed to be better because of snow or your bus schedule. They get that the struggle is real, so they'll be able to kind of give you some genuine and honest feedback about your journey so that you're successful. That's kind of the point. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And we'll talk about the peer navigators more certainly in the future. We want to introduce Dean Allie Bissonnette.
Hi.
And if you want to just say a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So first I will say I'm thrilled to be here. I came from Los Angeles. I worked at USC at their Center for the Political Future. And I just got here in June, and I was like, wait, there's students here? So I'm so happy to finally see all your faces. I was also like, wait, what? It snows here in September? So I'm getting used to the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's looked behind you in a while, but there's legit snow.
Is it sleet or rain?
That is rainy. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, we're going to debate
Yeah,
this.
I've been in LA for 15 years, so I'm getting used to it. Anyway, it's a whole new world.
All right.
I know, they're like, simmer down, lady.
Okay.
But I just want to say I'm really, really excited to meet all of you, if any of you working at USC, I think I was so excited to come to a community college because, truth be told, every single student I worked with at USC, I could always tell if they had transferred there or if they had come in as a freshman, because the transfer students were far and away above the students who started as freshmen. And I think it just speaks to the dedication and work that you put in at community college. And it speaks to the fact that I think you're all over the next 2 years going to put in a lot more time thinking about what you want to do and where you want to go and what steps you need to take. So I'm really, really excited to be here. I'm excited to be a part of that. And please, please, please use me as a resource. I'll probably be running around like crazy a lot, but come into the instruction office, come visit me. I'm here because I love working with students. So, come on in, talk to me, hang out with me. I can tell you all about USC and Southern California, where it's a lot warmer than it is here. So I'm thrilled to be here, thrilled to meet you all. Thank you for making some time today.
Thanks, Dean Bissonnette, for
Yeah.
coming in today. So.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Be careful out there. It's crazy.
Thanks.
See, it just stopped when you left. It's just you alone.
It sort of looked like snow. So I think because I know both of you have other things to do, so I thought maybe we would do your parts first. So Julie, do you want to? Is there anything else you need to go over as far as what Tower Promise is and the contract and stuff they should know today?
Yes. Okay, so I don't want to overwhelm you. I mean, I know what it's like to be a college student. I'm still taking classes right now. Lord help me, I hope to eventually, never take a class again. No, I love learning, but it's just a lot of work. And so I know you guys are going to dive into that in this class, so I'm going to let that kind of live in that space. I just want to leave you with this little pep talk in that, I barely made it through college. It was super hard for me. I'm not a good learner. I sucked at school. It was really hard. And so I just want you all to know that I really wish they were saying this program was here when I was here, because I probably would have graduated a lot sooner and had a little bit more focus, and then not felt like, everyone says, oh, go to college, you've got to get good grades, you have to do all these things, but a first-gen student, I really didn't know what that looked like. So I just want you all to know that, I get it, honestly, from the depths and the fabric of who I am as an individual, how difficult this journey is. And I just want you to know that I'm so proud of you for even being in class that first day and for being committed to this process. I wish I could say it was super easy, but like my dad always said, if college was super easy, everyone would do it, right? So just be mindful that I understand that it's going to be tricky at times. We work, we have responsibilities. You guys are trying to figure out how if you live on your own, how you're going to pay for rent. You're going to be figuring out how to pay for your food, your cell phone bills. Like, adulting is pretty crazy, and I'm not the hugest fan, but it happened, and here I am. But just know that we're all in this together, and I think that's what's really beautiful about this program and why I wanted to be a part of it, is because it really, we're going to wrap, whether you like it or not, we'll put our deodorant on. We're going to wrap our arms around you, and we're going to give you a really tight hug so that you guys have everything you need to be successful. And I also will be running around. See, I feel the love already. But I also will be kind of running around like a headless chicken, like, for the next couple of weeks, because we're really trying to finalize the program and, make sure you have a good student experience over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be reaching out to you via email about what you're missing, if anything. So just keep an eye out for that love note. Check your email. That's your biggest advice for me today. Check your email. If you need help forwarding it to an email you're actually going to read, hit me up or hit Ambassador. We'll show you how to do that.
Forward your LTCC email to your Hotmail or your Gmail or your Yahoo or whatever.
I don't think they Hotmail.
They probably don't.
Hotmail?
I hear Hotmail one person.
Does it still exist?
So I would just say check your email because it's the best way for you to know what's going on. And email and adulting, they go hand in hand. So unfortunately, just check that email. If you need me for any reason, I'm in the app. It's the easiest way to message me. I'm on it almost 22 hours a day. Literally, I'll get a message in the night, it wakes me up, and I just want to make sure you guys have everything you need. So message me in the app. In fact, you want to put my cell phone up there? Chase, then let me know what's going on. I would say don't call me in the office. As you can tell, I'm never there. You can call me, but it takes me a good day to catch up with those voicemail messages. And same on my cell phone. If you're having an emergency, text me because I don't get the best service on campus. If you guys do, let me know what carrier you have, okay? But I can get a text so much easier. Did someone just text me?
Oh, no.
You're also special. Okay. But seriously, this is the easiest way for me to help you right away. If you call me, sometimes I get a missed signal, or I'm like, I don't phone calls, I'm not going to probably answer them until I do this, right? So check your email, text me, Coyote Corner app. I've given you all access. You have more access than my husband. Okay, so call me. Okay, that's about all I have.
Yeah, cool.
I will let contractors.
Yeah,
Send
and
them to the end of the road for me. That would be so awesome.
working on the contracts. And it's a good reminder, if you don't have the Coyote app, download it, right? It's a really good app, and sometimes you can read the student feed and find some interesting stuff on there. I want to explain one more thing. Get it out to you. All right, we kind of read.
So you go to the little bubble in the middle bottom, and then there's an insane looking bubble in the top right. Oh man. And that's a good way for you guys to message one another. So if you don't want to give out your cell phone like Great Julie Booth, you can just say hey them in the app, and then they can give you a message there.
I told her she was asking.
And it's low risk, right?
We wrote it. We made a list. That's what we were relating.
Especially if you're doing a study group or something.
But again, she's a promise director, so I'm teaching the class. Christi is a promise counselor. It's like you can tell today, a cast of thousands, and Julie is really the one who's coordinating every single piece. So eventually there's going to be that amazing office just downstairs. Take a right. It's going to be the promise office. You can hang out with Julie and her staff there. So in other words, she is connecting all the dots on campus with promise. Everything from your eligibility, maintaining your eligibility with the contracts, events. This is going to tire you out just going through this whole list. Connecting to the class, making sure that you take the class in your first 2 quarters. All the other issues, which is the financial stuff that we're going to get to later, like the bookstore credit and the bus pass, etc. So she is really our key point person on campus, organizing and creating everything. So you're going to be busy the next
I know people keep dinging my
few
phone.
months.
I love it. Your butt's ringing.
My butt is ringing. So I want to give 2 updates about that too, just really quick. So we are, because this is new, I'm working with the bookstore to set up your $100 credit. And that has proven to be a little bit interesting because we want to make sure that $100 rolls over each quarter. That's actually really unique about this program. EOPS, as you know, will give you a bookstore credit, but what you don't use, you lose. So I will get that to him this week. If you guys are in a jam, let me know. I'll make sure you filled everything out and you're completely done. But I'm going to give him that list. It's going to probably take till Wednesday for it to populate in the system. You're going to need your photo ID, ideally your student ID card. And you'll, yes.
What if you don't have?
Go get one.
I would
They're
encourage you
free.
to get one, but they'll work with you for a little while if you're driver's license or something of that nature. The photo ID is awesome. You can get a free bus pass too. So if you get a jam, and you get discounts in the community if you show that. So
It's right in enrollment services.
Yeah.
Just go in, free, right where you registered.
And they're there till like 8 o'clock at night, so you can get one every day of the week, except Saturday, Sunday.
It
Or
takes
Friday.
like 5 minutes to do. It's really easy, and you'll get your bus pass.
Yes, so let's talk about books too. Okay, so the bookstore credit, $100 per quarter. It's going to roll over up until graduation day. Whatever you have to spend will turn into a scholarship to you. So it covers everything except for food and apparel. So if you need art supplies or paper or pens or books, if you can't rent, that's where you're going to go. Now books. I'm working furiously and frantically and to try to get your books ready. Who here who has needed books has turned in something with the library and did your online request? I know that's foreign, but a lot of you probably don't know what I'm talking about. Who needs books?
Yeah, that's a better question. Who still needs books?
Who still needs books? Who doesn't know what the heck they need?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, those are my people. Okay. The best thing to do is to hit me up or an ambassador, and we'll tell them right now. In between classes this week, hit up a student ambassador, get your printed schedule, and we're going to walk over to the bookstore and see if you can have any required books. Okay? And then if you do, we're going to highlight that class, and we're going to get you on the computer, and we're going to do a book lending request through the library. If you've already purchased books, let's chat this week and see how we can go ahead and amend that. But that's kind of where we're at. Again, we're building the plane as we fly it.
I know.
But we're not building a tiny plane. We're building like a really nice jet, private jet. Okay? All right.
Cool. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Christi Ellingford.
Okay, so Julie is like the really fun one, and I'm like really serious and gonna give you like all the tough love stuff, okay? So I'm really concerned about keeping you in this program. And there's things that you have to do in order to stay in the program. So like we're gonna give you free tuition, we're gonna give you book vouchers, and we're gonna give you access to the lending library and counseling, but we want you to do something to earn that, okay? And so that is it's a little different than people who came before you who had free tuition, but we're also offering a lot more, and we're really, really like backing this program. We think that the things that we're asking you to do, like this class, are going to help you and help you graduate on time, get your degree, and transfer. So I'm just curious, a little pop quiz. You guys all signed contracts now. Does anyone know what they signed?
No.
Okay. Yes.
It's also written in syllabus.
The requirements? Okay, great. So it's in the syllabus too. So if you want, you can look at your, thanks Rosie, you can look at your syllabus when I'm asking you these questions. What's the minimum GPA?
2.0.
Okay, you have to have a 2.0 in order to stay.
C's give degrees.
How many units do we want you to take each quarter? So yeah, that's a little ambiguous. So you have to have a minimum of 12, right? That's full time. But you can't graduate in 2 years and only take 12 units. So you need to take, and Scott, maybe you're going to be like reviewing all of this in the future. I don't know if you are.
Let's do that.
But I really want to make sure that you have to know these things, or you will get dropped from the program. And I don't want that to happen, and nobody wants that to happen. So we need you in 12 units, a minimum of 12 units. We want you in 15 or 16 or more. 16 is probably the appropriate amount, because that's how you can get out of here in 2 years, or get your degree, transfer, whatever, okay? So we're shooting for 15. So when you come to see me for advising or to create your ed plan, it's best if you know, like, I want to take this class, or I want to take this class, because otherwise, it's not like high school. It's not like high school where you walk in and your counselor just gives you a schedule and then you take those classes. You guys are in charge of your education here, okay? So it's better for me if you come in and say, I really want to take, anatomy and physiology, or I really want to take this sociology class or this anthropology class. I really want to take one of these classes. That helps me. So you guys can definitely take more of an ownership role in your education than probably you ever felt like you were able to do before in high school. Okay, so that's like what I want you to take away. Come and tell me whatever it is you want to do. Okay, and if you change your major 5 times, I'm going to create an ed plan for you each time. Okay, hopefully it's within the meta major, so that some of those classes, like you're not taking classes that you wind up not needing. And that's something that we'll definitely talk about in future meetings when I come in. But certainly, so just to recap, 12 is the minimum, but we definitely want you in 15 if we can make it happen. Are most of you in 15? About 16? Okay, great. Great.
22.
Yeah. Ooh. Who's in 22?
Oh, wow.
That's crazy. So you need a special enrollment permit to enroll in 22 units. You can't just do that. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to come see me. Okay. So what are some other things? Really, those were the 2 things that I needed you to know, like to remember. Every year you're going to have to fill out financial aid. So I know that was kind of a barrier for some of you. It was a lot of work. You didn't have your social security number. You couldn't get your parents' information. You have to do it again next year, okay? Every year you have to fill out the FAFSA with us. So for the next 2 years, or some of you might be here for 3 years, if you have a high unit major, so somebody who's like majoring in engineering, they might have to be here for 3 years so they can get through all the calculus and the physics and the chemistry. So each year you're gonna have to fill out that FAFSA, okay? So one of the other things that is required is you're required to meet with me. And we also have another counselor who's going to be working with the Promise students. Her name is Mindy. But you're required to meet with me twice a month for the first quarter, okay? And then if you're doing well in winter, then maybe just once a month. And then if you continue to do well in spring, we'll, maybe once a quarter. Okay, so this is we're kind of, it's going to be scaled back, or you're going to still meet with me twice a month, depending on your progress. So this is going to count every time I come in here. I'm going to come in once a month. Every time I come in here, that's going to count as one of your contacts. So how many other times do you have to meet with me? How many other times? If I come in here once, so you all need to make an appointment with me, and that's going to be hard. Okay, so do it as quickly as you can. Yes, ma'am.
If they've met with you, does that count for this month?
Have I met with any of you yet?
Did you give my headline?
Yeah, I did. You're good. Chase is good. I can't remember. I think I met with you just a few weeks ago. So if I met with you in the past 3 weeks, if I personally met with you in the past 3 weeks, you're good. Okay? But if I haven't, this counts as your one meeting, and then you need to schedule an appointment. It only needs to be 30 minutes. It can be longer if you have more detailed questions. So if your questions include, I don't know what the heck I want to do, I want to investigate 35 different campuses, I want to know what the requirements are for these 6 different majors, I need more than 30 minutes, okay? But if it's a question of, like, I just want to update my ed plan, figure out what I'm going to take in winter, I have some questions, or I just want to do my check-in, that's a 30-minute appointment. So we have 3 classes. We have about 100 students doing this. So what my suggestion is that you go downstairs to student services after this, or when you have some time, and schedule an appointment once we start taking appointments. I believe we're on drop-in, so you don't want to do it during drop-in because you could wait like an hour. So once we go to appointment times, which I think is in 2 weeks, start scheduling appointments. Okay? These are all requirements Julie's going to be tracking. And these are things if you don't do, that could get you dropped from the program. I promise that I will try to, I won't be fun like Julie. So it's true. I won't be fun, but I will at least get you out of here and get you a degree. And Julie can provide all the fun.
If you want, so the ambassador station right outside is definitely Team Promise. And they are seasoned professionals at schedule making, and they know how it works and what's going on. So you don't even have to deal with the one-stop because it's crazy right now this week. Just hit them up and say, I want to make an appointment when it opens back up, and a Promise student, Julie said they would help me. And they're awesome. They'll help you either way, but I'm going to go give them a heads up of all the things I said that I promised they would do for you. And they're prepared for that. But they really are. That's why they're ambassadors of the college. So they want to help you guys, and we'll get you in that second appointment.
Also, you guys are going to have priority registration. So some of you I saw like recently, and a class got canceled or I had to switch it. If you are registering for classes right now, it's so hard to find a class that works with your schedule. So the sooner you can get in to see me, the better for you, because I can help you create your winter schedule. So on day 1, you can register and hopefully get the classes you want that work for your family or your work schedule or whatever it is you need to do, hanging out with your friends. So I do have a couple questions for when I come back in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's on you'll see it on your schedule. It says check-in. It's once every month.
So, and I know I hate to put you guys on the spot, but it just makes it easier for me. So just like by a show of hands, because I know it can be like awkward. Like, who knows what they want to major in? So most of you know. Who knows what a general education pattern is?
What?
Okay. What a general education pattern is. Like, does anyone know that there's 3 different general education patterns? Okay. Yeah, great. So now I know what to come in with next week. That's pretty much what I thought. And did any of you get an ed plan, like a quarter by quarter plan of what you're going to take beyond this fall? So do some of you have classes scheduled for winter and spring identified already? Winter. Okay, so you have winter. So a few of you have some for winter.
I have all 3 years.
You have all 3 years. Wow. Okay, that's good. Well, my job is done. That's good.
When I was front-eyeing on all of their files, the majority of students, especially if they were dual, are fall or they have 2 quarters.
Right. Okay.
So yeah.
Now, did anybody change their major from when you came for Seniors Day to now? So just a couple people. And you saw me since then, and we changed it?
You gave me the first deadline, then I changed it and I went with a different.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, but I think I just saw you recently too, because we changed. Like I printed it for you.
I talked to you at the orientation.
Yeah. Okay. So when I come in, so something that's really important for you to know is what a general education pattern is. And there's 3 different ones, a minimum of 3 different ones. And so it's important for you to know that as you take charge of your education and as you take control of transfer and what you want to major in. So I'm going to come in next time and I'll discuss the 3 different types that are most common in California so that you can choose. When you met with us counselors, we all said, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing. I don't think us counselors is right. I think it's we counselors. When you met with us, we told you what you were going to do. And I think that's fine, but you guys, for the first quarter, but I want to give you all the tools so that you can really own this, because that's also what helps you be successful. So I'm going to talk about, I'll do ed plans, and apart from having to meet with me another time, do you guys have any other questions for me? Yes?
Can you help us with financial aid too?
I can't help you get financial aid, but I can definitely get you directed, and I know like the process. So
We have 2
it's
classes,
in my office. Yeah, and we do have financial aid director and coming in to talk to you about your financial
Weeks
aid.
5 and 6 will just be financial aid and financial literacy.
The
So
one thing though,
we're
I
gonna hit that
have
hard.
it's super duper important for me because I'm the check mark lady, right? It's my favorite thing of this job is to check marks all day long. The biggest things is to make sure that you are officially promised, and when I looked at the list, almost everyone, but not everyone is, that you have to have your financial aid finished by the 27th. That's next Friday. If we can't get you finished, you can continue everything you're doing. We can give you other support. We can still wrap different arms around you, but it won't be the $100 bookstore card, and it won't be some of these other benefits. If you're a dreamer, DACA, anything like that, talk to America. She is my biggest ally on campus. She understands how those forms work. But that FAFSA, because we're held by an audit from the state, it has to be filled out or I'll lose your jobs.
Yep.
So I would like to ignore that part, but that's 27.
We won't show a raise of hands, but if you haven't completed your FAFSA, you need to do that by next week. And then one thing I do really want to reiterate that you don't really check your email, but we're telling you right now you have to check your email. So if you come to us in 2 weeks and say, well, I never got the email, I didn't check my email, we can't do anything about that because we're telling you right now, check your email, come see us. This is like we can be a little bit flexible, but there's a lot of things we can't be flexible on with this because it is grant money and the guidelines are pretty strict. So check your email. Yeah.
With all the applications filled out, when do we receive it? Because I just heard you mention week 5 or 6 we'll start talking about financial aid.
When do you receive your financial aid?
Yeah.
So if you're eligible for FAFSA, so there's different types of financial aid, right? So one is Promise Grant, which pays for your tuition. You don't get any of that money. That just goes straight to paying your tuition, so you don't have to pay anything. The book voucher is the $100, and Julie's working on that, and that should be within the next couple of weeks.
Days?
Yeah, okay, we'll say days. And then there's FAFSA, which is Pell Grant, and that's free money. So if any of you have been awarded free money, you will certainly get it before the 5th week. And typically,
weeks 3 and 9 or 10.
and I thought they were shooting to get it out earlier than week 3.
Okay.
But what
they
you
divide it up every time.
They divide it up twice a quarter, and they check, and you'll get all this in week 5. But they're going to check to make sure that so right now you're in 12 units, right? You're only going to get, your 12 units is the maximum amount for financial aid. So if you're in 12 units right now, you're going to get paid that amount. If you drop down to 9 units, you're not going to get paid for 12 units in 6 weeks. Does that make sense? You're only going to get paid for the number of units that you're enrolled in. And if you got paid for 12 on the first check, but you drop down, then that affects your promise eligibility, that affects your FAFSA, you're not going to get as much money, you might have to pay back. One of the things that I would definitely recommend based on this question, which is great, is financial aid is always available to you. And we really want you to keep your money. We know that you need it. And if you have questions, you can certainly ask me. And if I don't know the answer, we'll get Naomi, we'll get America, we'll get Petra, we'll get somebody to answer those questions. Because it's very tricky, financial aid.
Is Cal Grant the same thing as FAFSA?
Cal Grant, you don't get free money for either. The thing that you get you get free money, which is like cash to you, is Pell Grant. And so that is I wouldn't have any way of knowing like who was eligible for that. I mean, we could look it up, but that is money that if you signed up with financial aid for direct deposit, if any of that sounds familiar to you, there's a direct deposit form that you have to fill out, and then it goes right into your checking account. Yeah, so if you hadn't done that, then you may not have been eligible for Pell
I
Grant.
got a letter from Cal Grant saying I got this money, but
Okay, so let's follow up on that, okay? And then also, maybe even more important than checking in with me and Julie is when you get an email from financial aid, reply to it, okay? Like we've had so many students this fall that financial aid was emailing or texting, we need your social security number, we need this from you, and students didn't follow up with it, and so then they didn't get their financial aid. It doesn't mean you won't get it, it just means that you're not getting it when you need it right away. So really, really, really important that you are always checking your text and your voice and your email. I know it's archaic and old school, but that is how financial aid is responding to you right now. And everyone wants their free money, right?
And I have you guys all color coded because, you know, the rainbow is beautiful. Hopefully you are peach. Peach means like...
Everything's done.
Yeah, you're done. It was the only color I could find that I was ready. If you want to bypass the financial aid check-in line, I will be available in my office. I'm going to go block myself out. You guys get out at
3:20.
So I'll be in my office. Come by, make a line in the hall. Someone stole my super awesome superhero posters off the wall, so there's something to look out lightweight. But I can tell you very quickly where you're at, because I've already cyber-stalked every single one.
So we can at least let you know what you need, or if you need to see them, or... Okay.
Awesome. So anything else for that? Questions for Julie or Christy? Because I know you're both super busy and want to go and...
See you in 2 weeks. Yeah. See you in my office. He said it's in my office. It's in my office, right? Yeah. Yes.
So call and make the appointment with you for this month, right?
Yeah, you don't have to call. Just go downstairs. Like the ambassadors can make it. Somebody in student services can make it. The One Stop can make it. The ambassadors are your best bet.
It's the first time I've been a long time ago. Do I still?
If you haven't met with me in the past 3 weeks, you need to meet with me. If you met with me back in May, that doesn't count.
Back in 2014.
Yeah, 2014 as a high school student. No, past 3 weeks.
so it's twice a month, right? So
It's twice a month, but we're gonna every time I come in here, this is gonna be. We're trying to make it easy for you.
So when is the month's deadline?
The month deadline is we're not gonna do it. It would be really hard to get you all in by the end of September.
Yeah.
So if you can get in by the end of September, that'd be great. But what we're shooting for then would be between now and the next meeting in October.
Julie's office is where?
Down the stairs.
Down
to
the stairs.
Right.
Take a right.
Yeah, right. If you see the ambassador station, head down the F hall.
Yeah.
Ambassador station. One stop. Keep going. Keep going down the hall.
As you walk down the stairs and you turn right, there's a construction happening. That's going to be her new office, but it's right across from the construction.
You're upstairs.
Yeah. Let's go downstairs. Take a right. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay.
No.
Let's thank Julie
so
and Christi. Thanks so much. Good deal. So, okay, so now let's talk about, by the way, if you're wondering, thank you for, someone did, that's great. I'm recording just this section of classes because we've talked about in the future maybe having a hybrid version of this, although I don't think it would work as well because the whole point of this is to meet people in person, when you do it on a virtual means, but in any case, you'll notice a camera recording stuff, and I also do I'll talk about later my new role on training. So if you see me around campus with cameras and recorders and stuff, I'm trying to really document everything on campus for our new faculty coming on board. So this class, just to mention a couple dynamics, if you have to take a break, if you need to go to the bathroom or get a drink or whatever, that's fine. You don't have to get permission. Just head out. We typically won't do a break in the class because it's kind of a shorter class. But some classes we might actually end early, like today. We'll see how that goes. I want to take you through the syllabus today and talk about all the dynamics of class, and then a little bit about Promise. I won't cover too much of this. What I'm doing is, this class has its own Canvas shell, and we'll talk later about how to get set up on Canvas. It's basically our online platform, and beginning next week, Trevor Thomas, who's our DE coordinator, will be coming in to talk to you about DE classes. Even if you're not taking an online class right now, if you take one in the future, we're trying to set you up for success. Again, the whole point of Promise is to say, what haven't we thought of? Or what are some hurdles that maybe we didn't anticipate? Or what are some things that you need that we didn't need back in the Stone Ages when we were students? So we're really trying to think of everything. So next week, that theme will be educational success, de-stressing, time management, and then also focus on DE. So we'll talk later about how to get hooked up on the Canvas shell for this class. But if you see this icon here, anytime you see the Canvas icon, it just means for that week of readings, you'll see that reading or website is available to you. So there's a lot of stuff on Promise. Jeff DeFranco, our president, did a piece for Forbes magazine talking about the dual state promise. So it means that, Nevada, certain zip codes around the lake, close to the lake, and then California, of course, we pay for your education. So there's been a lot of interest in that. Colo News 8 from Reno. I won't play this in. You can watch this. They did a little profile. Did anyone get on camera when they came in? Because they shot in a lot of labs and they shot downstairs and stuff. So there's a lot of interest in this because of the uniqueness of it. If you're following the presidential politics, there's a lot of discussion among some of the Democratic candidates, Bernie Sanders, maybe a few others, talking about trying to guarantee free college tuition to all Americans. And so it's something that is hot and current in the news, and one of the reasons for that is because, A, we know that education is important and maybe it's being devalued in today's society, and B, we realize that it's super expensive. The cost of books, the cost of housing, tuition, of course. So the thing about Promise that's unique is we try to cover most of your costs. We're not covering your housing, but Rosie and others could tell you about the fact that we have really cool new student housing. I encourage you, I did a video, a little live cast, kind of going in there, and it's really nice. Like, I was comparing it to my dorm, when, my crappy dorm when I was an undergraduate student, and it's actually, it's pretty posh. You don't think of it as student housing when you go in there and see it. I mean, I think it's really nice. And so that's the other part of living in Tahoe, like the playground of the rich kind of thing. Most of our students are not, necessarily, you don't come from $1 million families, and you can't afford some of the things that maybe other folks can or other students can. There's a lot of variation there. We don't check based on like your socioeconomic status and say you have to hit a certain level or be below a certain level. We guarantee this as long as you fulfill all the requirements. But down the road, I feel like, in the national scene, more and more politicians are talking about the idea that we might cover all education, which I think is super important. Obviously, I'm an educator. I've been teaching here for over, I think this is my 22nd year. And so obviously I'm way into education. I think it's super important. And I would say that a sub-message of this is to really develop that value for yourself, for your kids, for your family members, partners, whatever. Because I think we live in a society today where the emphasis is maybe not on education. And I won't get too political, but there's a certain person in office who would say that maybe doesn't value education and doesn't stress it as something that we should be focused on. So that's kind of part of this. So if you see news on Promise, the reason for that is it's really hot right now. Like, it's the thing that's new. It's really awesome. We're trying to develop all these support networks. And if you look at the word promise, it talks about being a pledge, a guarantee, some kind of assurance. And I underline the word future because I think the thing that's really key with Promise and your success here at LTCC is just thinking about the future. You can't always predict what's going to happen in the future. But, sometimes you'll get hit with something really heavy in your life, an accident, an emergency. You have to take care of a family member. You have to take care, you become a single parent or something like this. So planning for the future is not always easy, and I'll tell you from experience. And you have to adapt sometimes very quickly when you have a family member who has a serious diagnosis, literally out of the blue, that you didn't see coming and is one of the most serious medical conditions you can be diagnosed with. So when that kind of stuff happens, you really kind of recognize the importance of doing this ahead of time. Because if you have all your ducks in a row and you have things together, and you do get hit with an emergency or some situation, you get ill, or even I've had students in the past, we have so much great recreation here. I've had students who've gotten serious injuries from recreation and sporting. Sometimes it puts you out for a little bit of time, and if you're a planner and if you have things set up ahead of time, it's a little easier to adapt. So the idea of the promise is that we're giving you something, there's an assurance, but it's also focused on the future. Jonathan, our VP of Student Services, and Jeff DeFranco, our president, both emphasized this today, where they said a lot of the issues with what's called retention, people who persist from fall to winter to spring and then through graduation, those numbers are pretty bad. And so one of the programs that is really looking at achieving better persistence and better retention is Promise. And so that's another reason we're doing it as a school, because we looked at our numbers, we said this isn't good enough. If we have really good numbers in fall quarter and people leave, why are those people leaving? And sometimes people leave because you're here for a short time, you work in the ski industry, you get a new job, or decide you're done skiing or whatever it is that you're doing in town when you move on. But we really want to focus on this idea of planning for the future and making sure that you stay with us a while through graduation. And then related to that is that word success. And if you look at the word success, the underlying thing there is this idea of an accomplishment of a desired end. So hopefully today you can all do this with your education. Now you don't have to decide today, you don't have to say I want to be an anthropology major. A lot of us shift through college. When I started back in the late 80s as a first year college student, I was pretty convinced I was going to be a music major. I was a saxophone performance major, also interested in composition. And then I took an anthropology class, and I got really jazzed about that, and then got 3 degrees in culture anthropology. And prior to this year, that's what I taught here at the college, anthropology and sociology. So thinking about the future and the desired end, you don't have to rush to it necessarily and know today what your meta major is, or know today what you want to do when you grow up, as Julie said. Hopefully part of that discovery and exploration, as I found useful as a first-year student, happens for you. But that being said, the state doesn't want us to take 6 or 7 years anymore to figure out that we want to major in PE or anthropology or sociology or whatever. So we're pushing a little bit faster, but I still hope we keep that sense of discovery and exploration. So as we talk a little bit about promise and success, I think one of the first things, and we talked about this today with the book credits and the requirements, we're giving you financial resources. So we're covering your tuition, you're getting a bus pass, which I don't know the value of that, but it's pretty good. And I think they said the yearly use was in the upwards of, it was tens of thousands of students and staff who use the bus for local transportation. We're also, of course, giving you that $100 a quarter book voucher, which is pretty good. Right now, if you're taking any class in math, we have what's called 0 textbooks. If you're taking anthro classes, most of the anthro classes that we're doing, we have a free textbook or a really old edition that's like $4 or $5. And then our sociology class, if you're taking Intro to Soc, that has a free online textbook. If you go through the catalog, these are all, or the schedule rather, these are all marked as a book that, or a class that is 0 textbook, and as a result, you can kind of plan that next quarter and say, wow, if all my classes are 0 textbook, then I could use my $100 per quarter voucher on, I didn't realize you can't do food, but you could buy, zip disks, or not zip disks, flash drives. Zip disks are kind of out of service, but you could buy a lot of other stuff besides your books. Rosie?
Texas TIs, the really nice Texas
Yeah.
TIs.
Oh, you can get those, right?
You just don't spend any for like 2 quarters, and then you get one.
Okay, yeah. And what do those run? Over $100? Or? Yeah. Okay. So that's another good opportunity there. So if you're taking a math class and you're thinking of saving up for a really nice calculator like a TI, you could use your grant for that. So $300 a year, I think it's pretty good. I always tell horror stories. One of my classes as an undergrad had like 22 books, I kid you not. And the thing that really upset us is we got to class and the professor said, you're not going to need all these, some of these were optional. So there was like an exodus after the class where we all returned some of our textbooks. So that one class alone, I swear, it was like a couple $100 just for those books. We've gotten better at figuring out that financial resources are so important to being successful in college. So I think this is step one. We're giving that boost and saying you don't have to cover that. Obviously, you still have to cover your food and your housing and other things you might spend money on, But it's a pretty good start. And I included in this week's readings for you to look at if you want. this article, and all you have to do is like Google student debt, and you'll probably find thousands of articles about this. They all have the same message, like college is really expensive, the cost of living versus cost of college, right? Like, and income, like college costs are always so much higher than what you gain as a worker every year if you get a raise. And that's a sad story because, again, I think the U.S. used to have this tradition focused on the importance of education. We've done a good job in the community colleges. Even before Promise, we've always said it's important to recognize that college should be open access to everyone, and that's why we don't have requirements. You don't have to write a statement to get in. You just have to basically fill out an application. So it's a pretty good deal, community college, because we realize that student debt is a major thing. I'm still paying off, I'm in my early 50s and I'm still paying off my student debt, and I'll be doing it probably for a couple more years. So, I mean, it follows you. You take loans and stuff, and that's one bit of advice I'll give you, maybe solicited or unsolicited advice if you're curious, is, if the money's freely available, like with a Pell or some other opportunities out there, that's great. But if you take loans that you have to repay, unless Bernie wins the presidency or, maybe a Democrat who is interested in forgiving all student debt, which I kind of wonder how would that happen. But if that doesn't happen, you do have to pay off your debt. So I always try to say, don't borrow too much. I feel like as a student, there were a couple years there where I was like, oh, cool, I can apply for a loan and take it, but I didn't think about when I'm in my 50s I might have to be paying some of that off. And it's fine, I can afford to do that. The interest rates on student loans are really low, and you typically do pay them off for 20 or 30 years because they're just so low. It makes more sense to not pay them off early. But it's something we need to be aware of, is that financial cost of college. So hopefully we're hitting that. And these are some other things that maybe we might say are like barriers or things that could challenge us in terms of being successful. The other one down here is support. So having support of friends and family is really important. If you're at our last graduation or saw the webcast of it, some of the coolest images are when friends and family are cheering and they're holding up signs and stuff, because that shows you that you do have support networks out there. Use your support networks. Definitely use them, because if you're going alone and you fall into a rut and you have trouble in your classes, if you don't have those support networks, then that could be a hurdle. Some of this could be, if you're religious or spiritual, if you attend services, or if you have a practice on your own, meditation, yoga, whatever techniques you use to deal with stress, those can also be forms of support to kind of clear your mind. Drugs and alcohol, typically we would say maybe those aren't always positive forms of stress relief, but they are for some people. But friends and family obviously can give you that positive motivation to really think through issues when you're having challenges. They can help you through things. Time is another factor. Obviously time, so attending a class, there's a certain time commitment there. We'll talk about the commitments for this class in a little bit. And also just, balancing work and life. It's really hard sometimes when you're working, taking care of kids or a family member or other commitments, and trying to find time for all this and make sense of that puzzle. I try to lay stuff out on a calendar. I'm a big, supporter of, I will get on my phone and I will go to every single day, right? I go to my calendar and I look at what's coming up, right? And then for this class, I had to set up appointments because there's 20 different people coming to visit our class over the quarter. So planning ahead of time is really useful, but it doesn't always solve the problem of I don't have enough time to work, take care of a family member, take care of a child, and also go to class. So that's when you need those support networks, a counselor, a friend. Talk to me, talk to other instructors and professors, because that is really tricky to do. Those of us that worked odd jobs in school, I remember work in my dorm and I slugged mashed potatoes. It was always kind of demeaning because the other students I knew, my friends from the dorm, would come and I'd be, slinging the mashed potatoes and corn in their plates. But we've all done that, right? We've worked student jobs. I did that all the way through graduate school. I worked odd jobs even during my master's program. I can tell you stories sometimes. So having time for work and life and fun in school, it's really hard, and it doesn't get any easier, I think, as you get older. So I also say part of my thing on the message here is to have some fun too, because obviously there's a lot coming forward in terms of your future. Having ability is something too. I often hear this like in a math class where some students are like naturals at math. I don't know, I was never a natural at math, but some are, and it seems like, man, they don't come to class, and they could take Win or Larry's, high-level calculus class and get an A without studying or whatever. So there's also like ability, and I think with anything, you learn like where you need to practice and how much time you need to put in to it. Malcolm Gladwell, in some of his work, he talks about, what's the number? Is it 10,000 hours? Those of you who've read some of his work. Like to become an expert at something, right? Like you have to spend a really long time to be like really, really good. So ability is something else, but the cool thing about ability is you can kind of adapt, right? You can say, okay, I'm not great at figuring out the quadratic equation, so I'm going to go in and do tutoring. And by the way, they didn't mention it, but those of you in the like purple classes that are identified in the schedule with like purple designators, we're actually putting embedded tutors, basically another form of peer navigation in those classes. So if you're taking a class with Michael this quarter, I believe Larry, the speech class, and then I think there's one other, Julie Ewing's English class, we'll have embedded tutors in there. So we're trying to like undergird or give you foundations for your education here, and that helps certainly with the ability piece. And then I think commitment is another thing. You just have to be committed to something. If you want to do what Gladwell is talking about, become an expert, or not even an expert, slightly good at something. As Julie said, I don't like that phrase, C's get degrees, but if you get a C in a class, you still pass. But even just to get a C in a class, right, that takes a certain level of commitment. So we're trying to, balance, like we're giving you something, and then in return we're saying sign the contract, right? And that's why there's like that tough love part of it, and then the nice love part of it, which is you're getting all this cool free stuff. So commitment is something that we always have to think about. I'm not going to cover guided pathways too much here, but you're seeing this, it's being rolled out with the meta majors. If you see the t-shirts on campus, you'll probably recognize this. And we will talk about this a little bit more like later in the quarter. So what I would say about guided pathways is that it's moving from the old model of education. Like when I was an undergrad student at Indiana University back in the day, I remember it was probably in August, we didn't start late like here, but trying to take classes, and I would look through the schedule, which was really thick, and then I would like sign this form, and I think it was a bubble form, and you turn it into a window. It was like in the big gym where the basketball team played. It was like this really big event, and it was very, so you felt sort of alienated from the process because you didn't know if you were going to get the classes or not, and there wasn't a lot of guidance. Like I'm trying to think back if I ever met with a counselor in any of my undergraduate education. I don't think I ever did. So we didn't have a lot of the services like we do here. So what we're trying to do is balance a little bit what I mentioned earlier, that sense of exploration and discovery. It's like, I think I'm going to be a music major, I'm planning to do this, but I take an anthro class and I get excited about that, so I switch my major. That's that sense of exploration, discovery, and education that we all like. Well, we realize it's not infinite. If you take 5 or 6 years to figure out, and you try out every single major, and you have all these unused units, and so forth, I'm not saying you're wasting your time, because I believe you should always take classes and get an education, but potentially, you could be doing something more, earning more, transferring, whatever. So we're trying to balance that discovery with the end or future in mind, such that we understand that hopefully through the meta majors and guided pathways, you could figure out earlier rather than later what track you want to take. If you're a science person, you go green, right? If you want to do anthropology, history, poli-sci, you go with the brown there in the Society of Culture and Education. So we're trying to push a little quicker than we did in the past, and we'll see how it works. Again, as Jeff mentioned today, we will certainly look for your feedback at the end of the quarter. So let me talk about the syllabus a little bit. I'm not going to go through this page by page, but this is your main document. It's also available on the Canvas shell, if you want to check that out. And the other thing I'll just point out is that you have the 3 sections, and obviously we are the Monday section here, the first one, which is section 1. If you miss a class and you want to, and I'll get to the requirements in a second, use one of these others as a makeup, you can talk to me about doing that. I think that would be fine to be able to do that. Anything that you miss, if you're not going to get that threshold of those 11 for the class, talk to me. In my office hours, talk to me, and in fact, I don't think I put I don't know if I put the office hours on here, but I'll get you my office hours. I'll put those on the Canvas shell. But I'm usually around, and my office is just downstairs. When you go down the stairs, take a left. It's B101A, and it's just right there across from the mail room, if you know where that is. So if you do miss a class, talk to me, because I want everyone in this class to get the pass. It's a pass, no pass class, so you have to get that threshold. So all the description about the class itself is on the front page. I'm not going to go through all that. Trying to see what else here. Let's get to the requirements. So requirements are listed on page 3, and I have them up here as well. So this is kind of the key thing, is to get a pass in this class. We designed this class not as a graded class, so we didn't want to have, like, you guys write essays and do tests and stuff like that, because we're just really trying to introduce you to everything on campus and help with your success, do check-ins with your counselor. And it's not really, I mean, we're learning stuff, but it's not learning in the sense like in an academic classroom. So here's what you need to pass the class, and there are these 11 requirements. If you go to the Canvas shell, everything is worth 1 point. So essentially, you have to get 11 points in the class. It seems kind of silly, but because it's pass, no pass, if you do the assignment, you get credit for it. So everyone today has received 1 point, right? 1 credit. So you're 1 down, 10 to go. So that's pretty good. It's not that bad. So that's the first requirement. Attend 8 out of 11 classes. So you get 3 freebies to miss. And unlike other classes, if you're taking my social anthro class, I'd be like, well, yeah, you have free absences, but what about the tests and stuff? Since there isn't a test in this class, I'm not going to be like, oh, you should really come. Of course, I'd love to see you every class, but, attend 8 out of 11 classes, you'll get credit for that. So just make sure you do that and check that off and just keep track of that. The second thing is complete 2 out of 5 reflections in Canvas, and I'll show you how to get set up on Canvas. One of those you received today, and you do have to do it in Canvas. It's pretty easy. How many of you have taken a class in Canvas before? Anyone? No? Taken? Yeah, it's pretty easy to use. It's a learning management system. You log in. It's not that hard to do. So this is your first out of 5 assignments that I gave you today, and you have to do 2 of these, and they're 50 words apiece, so they're pretty short.
The online orientation goes over Canvas really well.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's great. Yeah. And then next week, and if you're thinking about DE and Canvas and you really want to learn about it, next week we're going to focus on it in this class. So be sure to be here next week. But it's great to hear that the online orientation has a good overview. I should add that as a link.
You're required to do the 11 things.
Yeah.
If you do more of one thing, can you do less of another?
No, you have to hit those. Yeah, no, I know where you're getting, like, can I do 5 out of 5 and then only do, the remaining? No, I'm kind of basing it on, yeah. Did you, are you taking off? Or?
I gotta go to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wait now, so when's your work scheduled?
I work every day besides Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, okay.
I work at 3.
Okay.
Yes.
At 3, okay, gotcha. Okay. All right. So just as a little tip, in the future, in other classes, like you have a math class or something, it might just be something you have to work out with your instructor. So, let he or she know, I don't know, before class?
Yes.
Okay. That might be a good idea. Okay. So work-life balance, right? So that's an example, because if I were teaching like my anthro class right now and that happened, I'd be like, well, wait a second, how are you going to take the exam? Because you might need the full class period to do the exam. So anyway, but it's kind of just an example, and I get it, everybody needs to work, but at the same time, it's also like, the classroom time. So anyway, so we were talking about Canvas. And can you do, so I'd like you to do, so think of these as 3 distinct things. So attend 8 classes, do 2 out of 5 reflections, and 1 out of 1 final reflection. So what I would recommend is, get those 8 classes out of the way, but then of course if you all do that, I'm going to be really lonely up here in weeks 9, 10, and 11. But just try to make sure you hit those thresholds. The 2 out of 5 reflections, they're 50 words per reflection. Like 50 words, you could do like that. In fact, this is probably more than 50 words. It's not that much writing, seriously. So I'll just ask you to complete that. If you complete it in Canvas by the due date, and all the due dates are listed here, then you get credit for that and done with that. The final reflection is also 50 words, and it's just like the end of the class. Hey, what's your one big thing that you learned from the class, and write about that in 50 words. So. Does that seem like decent? No one, not to call me sir. I feel old when there's someone on campus who always calls me sir, and I feel Dr. Scott. You can call me Scott, by the way, it's cool. Sir makes me feel old, so, but it's fine. So no one would say that's too hard, right? So does that seem right? Okay, cool. All right, good. Okay, so let me just introduce, because I haven't said like who I am or whatever, just kind of introduce you to, I'll get back to the syllabus here in a second. But yeah, so I've taught here 22 years anthropology and sociology. Yeah, everyone listen up. It gets distracting when you're talking and people start having sidebars, so it's easy to do. I do it myself too. Public events, but so anyway, here is like kind of the background if you want to learn more about me. So starting this year, I started this new role, which is more of a training. I am teaching, so I'm teaching the Promise class for the college, and then doing a lot of the onboarding for our part-time and also full-time faculty. A lot of the classes you take here, like somewhere around 80% of our classes, are taught by part-time instructors. There are very few of us full-time instructors. There's less than 40. And very often, if you take a class with a part-time instructor, it is an online class or taught through our ISP or incarcerated student program. So we realized the need to have more training, and they offered me this opportunity to do this new training position. But in the prior years, 22 years I've been teaching here, 21 years, I've taught anthropology and sociology. Maybe some of you have taken my online classes. If you want to check out my, you can go to my website and just see the stuff I do. I do a lot of writing, so I will actually be talking about that later in the quarter about doing your own research and tips for research. So a lot of the work I've done is on pop culture, and I've done research on video games, film remakes. So if you're into Resident Evil or Doom or whatever, those are kind of dated now, but I've written about those. And then I also do research in gender. In fact, just this last week, I did my first New York Times interview about a article on masculinity, and they were interested in my expertise. I also run a website called the Gender Ads Project. So kind of you can just check out some of my research and the stuff I write about. There are a number of us on campus that in addition to teaching, we do quite a bit of research and writing, and so that's kind of another side I'd be happy to be talk to all of you about as far as developing a research project or thinking about just what exactly you might do with certain degrees in the future. Certainly in social science I could advise you. And in my spare time you can look at my music link and look at my music experiments. I actually I do Eurorack, and I build instruments and stuff. You can go to my YouTube channel and check out that. I won't play anything for you today. I also play in a blues band. We play every year the Poverty Gig at the beach resort. So in July, if you want to check us out, I do some more traditional music for that occasion. But yeah, and what I'll say about this is having a hobby like music, for some of you it might be sports. I mean, for me, cross-country skiing in the winter is important release for de-stressing. Really important to have that like extracurricular thing that is in addition to your education. If you're just working and if you're just going to school, right, you need balance in life. So there's a Canvas shell available in this class, and I would recommend, I think what we'll do is, just in the interest of time, I think what I would say is to go to, let me just show you the website here. Go to ltcc.edu and then, let's see.
For Canvas?
Sorry, do you remember where it...
You just go through your passport.
Oh, I could go through passport. But I was going to say, if you haven't, if you've never done it before, there's a really good start page. Yeah, so just go to the search page and click on online learning when it comes up. And this will take you through everything about getting registered. You basically, if you don't have a Canvas account, you just want to log in and basically create an account, but it should all be through your student credentials. And as you were saying, if you go to your passport, let me just show you the website for that. Just put in your username. And did any of you encounter over the weekend there was an issue with in logging on? So, and then you'll go to your Canvas class. Oh wait, what happened?
Internet Explorer is not
Oh,
supported
jeez.
browser.
What?
Just go download Chrome.
I don't know if we have Chrome in here. Okay. Okay. Anyway, when you do this at home, yeah, it works for me on Explorer, but maybe it's a later version or something. So anyway, okay. So the Canvas shelf for the class. I'll just introduce this, and next week we're going to do a whole thing on DE with Trevor here. So what I would say is, log in. I actually have a welcome video there that talks about the class. If you all made it today, but if anyone missed, they can check that out. The main thing I would recommend is you can get the syllabus and also click on modules. When you click on the modules, it has everything organized like week 1 through week 11. If there's something due that week, it'll say, oh, your submission for this is available. So be sure, the first one of these is due next Friday at 5 p.m. It's always Friday at 5 p.m. And there are 5 of these plus the 6th one, which is the final reflection. And those are all listed on the syllabus. So what I would say is when you get home or later this week, before we meet again, try to log on to Canvas. And that way, when Trevor comes next week, who's our distance educator coordinator, any questions that you have, anything that's not working for you, like the browser, which we just discovered one today, then she could definitely answer some of those for you. But there's not going to be a lot of work that you do in the Canvas shell. If you want to read one of the supplemental articles or websites, you can check that out for the week. But the main thing is to use this to submit your 3 total reflections, the 2 out of 5 and the 1 out of 1.
Can we get extra credit if we read one of your books?
I'll give you intellectual extra credit. We can talk about it. How's that? So, my books are available in the library, and some of them are free online. But that is a good reminder. So, if you miss something in this class and you're not going to hit those thresholds, you need to talk to me in office hours or after class or before class, because then I'll talk about, like, okay, I need 1 more attendance credits to make 8. Can I attend the evening section on Monday night? So there are options like that, but it have to be related to the class, obviously. And I do appreciate, though, you should certainly read my. There are a couple of them that are free online. So so log on to Canvas. So I have a question for you on this. Or actually, let's wait on. Let me finish the syllabus, and then we'll jump back to that. So the next thing I want to mention is that if you look at starting on page 5. This is the class schedule. So what this means is we'll lay out what we're covering that week and if anything is due. Basically, if anything's due, it's underlined. So for today, there was a required check-in with Christi. I will take the attendance list here. I'll get this to Christi, and then that way you'll have your 1 out of 2 required check-ins with Christi completed for the month. So that's kind of done. And if anything else is due, like a reflection, if you look at week 2, it's underlined, personal reflection 1, due to Canvas September 27th at 5 p.m. So there's just a few of those. If you want, you could take this and highlight. Some of you have like a highlighter and just do that, and then that way you know. Or if you're really anal retentive, what would you do? Put it on your calendar. That's what I would do. Like when I have stuff due, like a paper I have to write or whatever, a bill I have to pay and I'm going to forget it, I put it on my calendar. It's really handy. You can set a reminder. It'll beep when it's due and so forth. So take advantage of that. I'm not going to go through every week, but what you can see is that each week is a different topic. And so one week we'll do financial aid. Another week we'll do student life. And so if you're interested in student clubs for that week, make sure to come to that class. And that's what I recommend. As you're thinking about your 8 classes, highlight the ones that you really need work on. You're like, well, I want to do a student club, but I don't know anything about student clubs or student senate. We'll come to that class, and that's when you're going to get that information. So I would really recommend to prioritize the ones you need. If you're good on financial aid, if you're good on financial literacy, then you could use those as your freebies if you want, as far as your eight classes that I'll be letting to attend. So. So I will ask you to read the whole syllabus, and on the last page you have the meta majors listed. Do you have anything else about the syllabus that you'd want to ask today, or anything that's not clear about We don't have exams, so that's kind of cool. For me, it's a lot less pressure teaching because people get really hung up on, I've been doing this a long time, grades, like one of the worst things as a teacher is people being like, oh, I need a C in this class or I'm not going to get into school or something. It's like that emotional. I get that education is emotional, but I just have to tell you on this side I've been on that side in 4 different universities or colleges like all of you as a student. But I find that it's kind of hard sometimes with that whole grading thing, and that's why starting in week 2, I really want to focus on just expectations about class, expectations about doing work and stuff. If you take a class with me in the past, or if you have Christina Tomaleo in psychology, Dr. Dirk in poli-sci and history, any of you had any of those instructors? Yeah? No? Some of you might have taken a class over the summer because of Promise. We let some people come in who actually took one class. But if you take classes at this college, there are expectations, and every teacher has a different expectation. In this class, you're getting pass or no pass. But if you're getting A, B, C, or D, what I'd really recommend is every teacher is different. Get to know that person, get to know what their expectations are. Don't be surprised by anything. Don't assume that because you took one class to get an A in that class, it's going to be the same to get an A in the other class. There's a lot of variation in our instructors, our politics, what we look like, how we dress, whether we watch TV or not. There's a lot of variation in instructors, so we want to talk about next week just how you can set yourself up for success in your academic classes, because it sometimes can be a challenge, right, if you're thinking about maintaining that GPA and then transfer and so forth. So anything else on the syllabus, or do you feel good about the syllabus? Other questions come up, you can always talk to me, so hopefully you feel good about that. So I wanted to ask you real quick here, just everything you've heard in the last hour and a half has been about we're giving you something and it's all this free stuff and so forth. So my question for you today, and I don't know if this is a softball or what, but is it all on us, or do you play a role in this thing we call Promise and getting your degree or your whatever it is that you're seeking, transfer to a 4-year school or some certificate? Is it all on us, or do you play a role in your education? Do you play? Yeah. So what is that role? What role do you play? What are some things?
Kind of like, we got giving us free stuff, so we should go off in school and pop off, do well.
Yeah, like if you're getting something, it's kind of like I don't know if your parent gave you some money to spend on something, and they said, hey, use it on books or something useful, and you blow it on, I don't know, gambling or weed or something like that, right? Your parents might be a little upset because the expectation was that you were going to do something useful with it. So for me, here's the one thing I worry about with free education. You want to know one thing? So there's a whole school in economics you could check out. It's called behavioral economics. And there's a guy, he has a really good TED Talk for TED Talks. His name is Dan Ariely. And he studies behavioral economics, and basically it's the idea that if you go to the store and you get a new iPhone, or you get whatever, most things that you buy, the store will say, you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Why do you think they do that 30-day money-back guarantee? Why do they give you 30 days? Because you might not like it, but actually it's something a little more sinister. It's actually because they know the minute you leave the store, you imprint on that thing you bought, your iPhone, right? I get the iPhone home, I put my contacts in, I download, my favorite games, I put all the stuff in there, my music. I've personalized the thing. It's a part of me. It's an extension, as Marshall McLuhan said, with technology. It's an extension of who I am. So what Ariely said kind of cynically is that the minute you take something home, you imprint with it, you form this connection. So it's really hard for you to return that thing. Sometimes you do, we all return stuff, but it's harder because you're like, oh, I picked this out, I personalize it, even though there's a whole trick about how we as consumers in society often are tricked into doing some of this. So the one thing I worry about in free education is this thing, is will you be able to define your role? Will you be able to, because you're not paying for it? I'm not saying you're not paying for any of it. You're paying for room and board. You're paying for food, this kind of stuff. But I worry a little bit if all the books are free and the tuition is free, how are you going to be able to be motivated? Can anyone
It's all given to us.
Well, because right, you know, I mean, if everything is given to you, like, doesn't that change your perception of stuff? I don't know. Or am I cynical? Yeah, possibly. So I worry about that, and that's something to ponder a little bit. You know, like just to think about, because when you have to work for something, like when you buy something like your first car or your first bike or whatever, and you've worked really hard for that, it's a different emotional experience than someone gave it to you. It's nice to get stuff, don't get me wrong, but you know, like working for something and drive and all that stuff I mentioned earlier about commitment, it's kind of important. And so just something I think to think about in the future. Can you think of any other roles that you play in terms of your education? Like what, or expectations or requirements? Certain things you have to think
If someone
about?
like gives you something, you're gonna want to like impress them to some extent. It's like if someone were like, Sam, like for this, or I get free college, right? I'm trying to like not fail.
Right,
It's
right.
like dumb.
Right.
What's the point if you're just
Yeah.
not gonna try?
Yeah.
Like why give it to me if I'm not gonna
Yeah.
put any effort towards it?
Mm-hmm. We often talk about, like, there's psychologists talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic is hopefully what we have, right? Like if there's something you really love in life, like for me, if I'm doing a new musical composition or creating a video, like I really love that stuff, so you don't have to push me to do it. Now when it's doing, because I do my father passed away, but I do my mother's taxes, I have to tell you, when I get on TurboTax and do that, I'm a cranky SOB, right? Because I'm like, I don't want to do this, and why didn't my parents plan? Oh, there's a little message there, right? The future planning. It's important because you might take care of your parents or a loved one later in life. So that intrinsic motivation, I think, is really where we need to be. Hopefully we get there when we define our major, when we figure out like, oh, I love engineering. I want to be a mechanical engineer. I love everything about engineering. I love equations. I love technology. I love crunching numbers and all this stuff. And then your pathway is set. If it's something you don't love, then sometimes that's hard, right? Because you don't always have that intrinsic motivation. It's the external motivation, which is like, oh, if I don't pass my anthro class, I don't have my GE and I can't graduate. So that's always, I think, a tricky thing for anything in life is just having the motivation, having the commitment. But I like your idea that if you want to impress others and say, we appreciate, if you study the anthropology of gift giving, Marcel Mauss, who wrote a famous book over 100 years ago called The Gift, said, in any gift there's an expectation. I give you something, give me something in return. There's different forms of reciprocity, but you give me something back. So for us, what would we like for you to give us back? Walking across stage, graduating, and we see you down the road and we say, wow, awesome, you were successful and you graduated from LTCC.
There's like another side to it though, because it's like you said, you buy yourself something but if you see it in like a different light. So like another side to the same argument would be like, say you're given something like free college, you're like, oh, I just kind of get it, why not just go along for the ride, you know?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So then you're like not really motivated to do anything, but you're like, might as well show up, it's free, you know?
Yeah, right.
So, and then like, and that's the other side.
Yeah, that is the other side. You kind of worry about that too, right? Because again, if you're not intrinsically thinking like, I really want to do this, and I want a degree, and I want to transfer, and I want to go to a 4-year, if you're just doing it, it's like, hey, it sounds good. I guess I would say for that, like, it's good, but it's not that good. Like, $100 book credit a quarter. There are a lot of other, careers out there, legal or illegal, right? Where you can make much better money than that. So it's not enough, I think, hopefully, such that people. I have had students in the past, probably shouldn't say it, but I've had some students in the past who were problems in class, let's just say, and it became clear that they were doing it. This was before Promise, but they were trying to get financial aid, right? And I even had a student say to me, I need this for my living, and I need a certain grade in the class to stay in financial aid. And I was shocked, but I kind of got it. Like, this was a really a person who, was struggling and maybe wanted the money, as meager as it was, just to live on financial aid. So hopefully that, like, intrinsic reason for doing stuff is where we're at here. And kind of the word I would, close on today is the word proactive. You're going to see I have 2 words highlighted on the syllabus, promise and proactive. So I would say, like, if the one thing you get out of this class is to be proactive, then that would be amazing. Just to be proactive. It means creating or controlling a situation by causing something to happen rather than responding to it after it has happened. As I said earlier, when you have an emergency, you have to take care of a loved one with a serious disease. You have to be their primary caregiver, even though you've never trained as a nurse or a physical therapist. or you have to do your parents' taxes, or deal with your mother's VA pension through surviving the death of her spouse. When you do that stuff later in life, it's a kind of a wake-up call to say, like, if I could go back in time, I maybe would have planned for some of that. I would have told my parents, hey, Mom and Dad, you guys should really plan more than you did, because it's a lot for me having to do that later in life. So anyway, so being proactive, try to think about being proactive in the future, and if you do that, that's kind of the first step in the journey. So does that sound reasonable? Anything else, just contact me. I'm here to help, and I will see you a week from today.